Ladies and gentlemen, we move now to the spotlight session, Resilient Bihar 2020. And as you know, the partner state for INFOCOM Delhi 2019 is Bihar, and hence this particular session. And our spotlight speaker is Mr. Rahul Singh, who is the Secretary, IT Government of Bihar. And our moderator will be Mr. Shantanu Datta, Resident Editor, Jharkhand Edition, The Telegraph. Before I invite them onto the stage, Mr. Rahul Singh is here already. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and take your seat. Mr. Rahul Singh, Secretary, Information Technology Department, Government of Bihar. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais. And I request the delegates present here to put your hands together for Mr. Rahul Singh, Secretary, Information Technology Department, Government of Bihar. Warm welcome to you, sir. Sri Rahul Singh holds the charge of Secretary, Information Technology Department, Government of Bihar. It is also the Managing Director, Bihar State Electronics Development Corporation Limited. He is a graduate in Computer Science from IIT Kanpur. He has been significantly involved in the Department of IT Infrastructure in the state, as well as improving the overall ecosystem for electronic delivery of services to the citizen. A warm welcome to you, sir. It's a privilege that you're here with us today. And our moderator for this session is Mr. Shantanu Datta, Resident Editor, Jharkhand Edition, The Telegraph. May I request you, sir, to kindly come onto the dais and take your seat. Mr. Shantanu Datta is the Resident Editor of The Telegraph, Jharkhand Edition, based in Calcutta. He has spent over a decade covering this relatively new state and chronicling its political and social turmoil. He is also a regular contributor to The Telegraph's opinion and news features pages. Mr. Datta has traveled extensively within and outside the country on various assignments ranging from political rallies to people stories to rock concerts. This is Mr. Datta's second stint with The Telegraph. He joined the paper as a trainee journalist in 1987 and stayed on for around 9 years, and finally moving to the Indian Express in New Delhi in 1996. Subsequently, he went on to head Express editions in Bangalore, Pune and Mumbai. After chronicling the transformation of Bangalore and Pune into IT hubs, he spent an eventful 2 years in Mumbai when the maximum city was witness to, most unfortunately, the 7/11 train blast of 2006. He's now back to where it all started, in Calcutta with The Telegraph. And I will now hand over the session to you after giving you a very warm welcome, Mr. Shantanu Datta.
Hello. Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Singh, again. You know, it's exactly about a year we spoke on this topic, and the other time, I remember the last time you gave us a presentation, which was fairly elaborate, and you told us a lot of things, initiatives that Bihar was taking. Today, I'd request you to sort of give us a little overview about how those initiatives have fared in the last 1 year, and you know, various aspects of promotion of IT. Apart from the cost advantage of Bihar that we always talk about, what would be the other drivers that could sort of take this forward? Can I use that? Yeah.
Thank you very much to INFOCOM, and a warm welcome to all the people in the audience today. And I think it's been a long day and it's just a pre-lunch session, so I'll try to be brief. The objective of the State IT Department and the Industries Department obviously is to facilitate investment. But facilitate investment, in a sense, to what end? So it's in, first of all, we are targeting BPO industries where there are obvious cost advantages to relocating to a smaller location, which is a tier 2 or tier 3 city. The India BPO scheme in general has not been as resounding a success as we had initially thought it would be, but we still feel that we have significant cost advantages. So that was one. The second focus area which we had targeted was some innovative research areas, especially in cyber security and deep learning. So I'll come back to it. when I finish sort of a listing of what we are targeting. Third, obviously, is IT industry per se, which involved mostly a fostering of the startup ecosystem in the state. So there were certain components, subcomponents of that. And the fourth was electronic hardware manufacturing. So these are the 4 areas which the state has been targeting in terms of attracting private investment. Why do we feel that we are strongly positioned in that sense? I'll just list 3. And obviously there's a weakness as well. So the strength is that it is the state as it is situated geographically. It has a good captive population within the state, as well as it serves the populations of the entire east and the northeast. So in that way, we feel that Bihar is a good source for servicing the entire eastern UP to northeastern area, northeast. So that is one. The second is, the state has embarked upon a massive HR augmentation exercise. So can you believe it, in a state like Bihar, we have women polytechnics in every district as of today. We have engineering colleges in every district, a polytechnic in every subdivision, an ITI in every subdivision, and a women's ITI at roughly 50 locations. So this is the manpower augmentation that the state has been attempting. All of these have been started within the last 4 years, once the focus was training and augmentation of HR capacity in the state. Of the graduates that are being produced, roughly 30% to 35%, depending on the location, of the engineering colleges are focused on IT and electronics. In the polytechnics, it's roughly 20%. Plus, at the lower level, where we also require people to do the L1 level support, we have got a massive infrastructure in place of ITIs, polytechnics, and apart from that, we have also embarked upon a massive program of imparting IT literacy as well as soft skills to the youth of Bihar. So we believe that in terms of the HR capacity, we have augmented our capacity and we are in the process of augmenting it. What is the weakness? There is a very obvious weakness. As you might all be silently vocalizing, that is the lack of a strong industry, private sector industry in the state, which is a fact. So it's like a chicken and egg problem. Even in Calcutta, you have a local industry which can be serviced by the local IT industry, although the bulk of the IT companies in Calcutta would be servicing offshore clients. So as I said, the advantages are the geographical location, the manpower augmentation, and C, a facilitative government, especially for startups and new industries. We are not targeting huge investments to the tune of thousands of crores. In fact, the entire industrial policy is geared towards medium enterprises, and the optimal use of our incentive scheme would be for a industry which brings in, let's say, 100 crores of investments. The presentations are outside. Those of you who are interested can actually go to our stall and see it. So what have we done? So if we talk about the startup space, we are creating and augmenting the common working space in the state. There is an ecosystem which we have created, and roughly, I won't go into the details of the policy, which are roughly the same in all the states. So there's a seed funding, there's a free incubation support, and obviously there's a seed funding. And for socially disadvantaged groups, there are additional incentives. So that would be there in all the states. There's a dedicated startup fund, and there are incentives at all the stages, whether it is for going out. But what we are trying to achieve also is an ecosystem where we link the startups to angel investors as well as potential VCs. So we are attempting that right now. In fact, we organized a very successful ideathon last year where we wanted prototype level ideas to compete against each other. And there we invited angel investors and VC firms apart from incubators. And the response that we got from these other players in the ecosystem was overwhelming. So one is the policy, the second is this ecosystem, and the third is we are creating co-working space. So STPI, I think he was here in the morning, Mr. Onkar, right? We are creating an additional 1 lakh square feet of area in the STPI. We are also creating another 1 lakh square feet on our own in the state government. In fact, STPI expansion is being 50% and more funded by the state government. So that's for the startup system. Co-working space, we feel, will also target our BPO startups and the BPO companies if they want to relocate. And probably the India BPO scheme will also come in a new avatar in a few months from now. So that will help us take it even below to the tier 4 level cities. STPI, in fact, we are funding it to a certain extent. It's also creating spaces in cities like Bhagalpur and Darbhanga. Then if I go to slightly bigger players in the ecosystem, we have identified and acquired land for expansion. So there are two targets. One is a 58 acres property near Patna, near the airport, the new international airport, which is going to be operational in 2022, which will be available for both co-working space as well as land allotment immediately. Within the next 3 or 4 months, that will be available. And the second is a 106 acres property in Rajgir, which is to the south of Patna at a distance of roughly 2 hours, which we are primarily targeting for electronic hardware manufacturing sector and even the electrical electronics sector. So this is the second part of the puzzle which we have done. We have identified a very transparent, we have drafted a very transparent allotment policy for both space as well as land. So the target of the state is any potential investor should not have to overcome opacity in our process or encounter that, both in the process of allotment of land, release of incentives, and qualifying and applying through the single window framework. So we have a robust single window framework through which both startups, there is a different startup portal and there is a single window clearance cell, facilitation cell for bigger industries as well. And they are functional. So I think I will stop at that, and Shantanu, I think we should take over from here, and if there are any questions, we'll be only too glad to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. We now invite questions to Mr. Singh so that he can elaborate on the things that he said. I wanted to ask something, but slightly off what you had just said. There are several opportunities of technological interventions in various civic amenities, areas of civic amenities. In that aspect, what is Bihar thinking about that? For instance, monitoring of civic workers and things like that. There are a lot of technological innovations possible. Is there any effort in these lines to sort of, invite people or throw open opportunities?
Okay, so normally this question comes to me from, is it working? So it comes to me from potential, let's say, I would say service providers to the state. So one is the e-governance projects that the state itself identifies and undertakes. So all of us, it's a very difficult puzzle for us. I think I have spoken about it last year as well. The difficulty arises precisely because any e-governance service project is a multi-year project by its very nature. And there are financial rules which inhibit us in the government from, in a way, identifying, let's say, very good technology and going ahead with it. It's not only to do with the financial rules, it's also to do with the longevity of the project. Last year, I identified an extremely good startup, and we have an app, all of you can try it. It's a Sahaj Technique Yojana. So the puzzle was that citizens are confronted with a choice between lots of schemes. So don't really know, so from the names, they don't really know what is applicable to them. So our objective was a citizen should be able to walk through a questionnaire and which should be predictive and ultimately you should be able to zero in on the schemes which are applicable to that particular citizen. So in fact, we identified the technology, we got an extremely good startup which was doing it. This app is very good, it's already customized for 80 odd schemes. Now this startup has been taken over by a bigger company. Now 1 year down the line, once we have invested our time, energy and everything into creating this is an extremely good app. So once you identify the scheme, because the data is already there, a citizen can actually, after verifying his or her identity, they can actually apply onto the scheme itself. But now I don't know the fate of the technology itself because it's been taken over by a bigger company. It will depend on the priorities of that company. Sometimes because of cash flow issues, many of the startups actually do fail or they simply lose interest. So these are the issues which come to us. On the other hand, we have to encourage them. So we are working on a mechanism where we will allow POCs and we will fund POCs. Obviously, it can't be a multi-crore POC, obviously. So there has to be a financial limit to it. But if a startup comes to the state, we have created a policy, we drafted it. It's not yet approved by the government, but it's in the process of consideration, where we will fund a POC. If there's a startup and the department, any department feels that it's got value, they approach us, there is a committee which will vet it and will allow the POC and we will pay up to 25 lakhs for the POC. So this is again mostly targeting startups because it was not yet policy, therefore I didn't expound on it when I gave that brief so-called speech. Otherwise it's very difficult, but this POC route seems to work where we can identify if it is working, then we scale it up through a normal financial rules process or involve the vendor, service provider through some other means. This seems to be a feasible option. Shantanu.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor, from the house? Let's have a few questions, please. Anyone? Yeah, please.
So one very obvious area where we are also collaborating with the STPI is the Center of Excellence in Agriculture. So technology in agriculture. So everybody is nowadays talking of agriculture. Be it Microsoft or be it small tech firms. So agriculture encompasses not only agriculture per se, so pest control, irrigation, groundwater monitoring. If you look at all of these things, there's a lot which actually can be done. So this is the one area where we are going to emphasize. Although STPI is restricted to IoT in agriculture, but we are funding them and we are saying not only physical hardware devices, it can be pure technology and pure, let's say, a MIS driven thing or a machine learning driven thing. That is one. The second, because now groundwater is and irrigation will be a very difficult area to cover in the coming years. All of us are aware of that. So I think there are lots of startups which are focusing on that. There we actually want to do a monitoring, which is a very live case where we want to have a very effective POC and actually an effective procurement. So we have identified it and right now the state itself is wondering how to go about it. So that is one specific area where the state is very willing to sort of initiate POCs.
Yes, sir. One moment, just the mic is there. Yeah.
My name is Ike Sinha. I am Country Director, Unite for Good. As you mentioned, Bihar's geographical position is at a very vantage point for Eastern UP, Northeast and whatever. It had its significance ages ago. The silk industry and talking about agriculture, your land is so fertile. Where is this roadblock? If we have such brains like yours to be into the IT sector, Bihar has the largest of intellectual people who are flooded in Delhi, but nobody goes back to their state to do reverse investment with whatever they have learned. So where is the roadblock? Is it because of the political push, or how do you ensure benefit going to the poor? The agriculture, the soil of Bihar is so fertile all across either side of the Ganges, and still there are issues. Where is the roadblock for such things to happen with brilliant people like you into that sector? Instead of going forward, most of it is paperwork. You have declared Bhagalpur as the smart city. Nothing has happened. Nobody is bothered about the drainage. I am not from Bihar, but I have seen and I feel the silk industry is #1 in the world. But where is it now? You could create so much of jobs. Your IT industry can play merry hell and teach the rest of India. Where is this roadblock? That is what I want to understand.
Yeah,
Why there is no
You've
industry?
actually touched upon various aspects, but the core question, if I understood it correctly, is that where is the roadblock about people returning to Bihar and working and doing things for the state?
Yeah, I mean, they
yes.
are all over.
Right, right.
But
Yeah, it's a
agricultural things, the land is so fertile. Why can't things improve?
Yeah.
Why there is the water problem when Ganges is flowing all around there? It's most fertile soil. Education, super. You had all Nalanda, everything out there. Education flourished from there only. You have Bodh Gaya there, all the Buddhists from all over the world.
yeah,
reach there.
we've got the point now. Let's.
Where's the
So, thank you for the question, Mr. Sinha. It's a very difficult question because it is ultimately a bit rhetorical. But if somebody asks me why Bihar can't attract investment right now, so one very simple answer is that we missed the bus in the 90s and the early 2000s. And if you see all across the country, except for Bombay, which was already developed as a city, Chennai, yes, Calcutta, yes, but Calcutta obviously didn't grow to that extent. But everything else, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Pune, Indore today, even Lucknow, those of you who are from Lucknow would recall the Lucknow of 1990 or 1991. And the way, and Noida, and Gurgaon, what was Gurgaon and Noida in 1990? So all of it changed within the next 15 years of liberalization, since 91. So there was a market, there was some facilitation from the government, and people had to come in, people came in. Now they are established. And that's why I said in Bihar we are not looking for extremely big investors to come in because they are already set. And now today is the time when profit margins are actually being squeezed. Big IT firms are now working with zero bench strength, where at a time they would be working with 20%, 25% bench strength. So everybody is feeling the squeeze. So big companies won't come in. That's almost a certainty. So how will then the growth happen? One way is government-led centers of excellence, government-led generated demand. So for example, as I talked about agriculture, the second is BPOs, and the third is, when I said facilitative research, so CDAC is going to open a center in Bihar where we are going to focus on essentially cyber security and deep learning. So we are just asking CDAC to focus on these two sectors. Once there is a CDAC center which is doing research on this, there will be people who will be trained on this and it can become a center. But a very, very short answer to your question is why? It is because lots of these North Indian and East Indian cities actually missed the bus in the 2000s. Those who didn't are actually riding the boom still today, to a large extent. Thank you.
Yeah, please. A microphone, can we have the mic? Yeah.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Sunil Gupta. It's a small question. Our center is promoting digital India, digital disruption over the last 5-6 years. But I still found a lot of states, especially in the inner areas, they still are not that really they're not pushing themselves as per the center's initiative. So where is the lagging behind? What's the reason basically?
This is a question I actually like to answer. If you go to a village, if they have mobile connectivity, and have you seen them using Amazon or Flipkart? They don't find any difficulty using it. Why do they find using our applications difficult? Because we require a PhD in that particular software to be able to access the government's programs. No, it's less of a mindset issue rather than it's our issue. The way we have been designing our interfaces in the government, we are still, lots of our ERPs, even if we have ERPs, if you look at the interfaces and everything, it's a propaganda on the first page. That's a very, very personal view. And then once you are in the system, it looks like the railway reservation software that we started using in the 90s. And we have not really upgraded. We are not bothered for the customer, so to speak. And that is that. So people actually will use WeChat, WhatsApp. Why are they using it? Because it's so intuitive. So the design of our applications in the government should be much more intuitive for the people to be able to use it. And the second part is, obviously, there's a precondition to it, that there should be good, reliable connectivity. I think we have still not been able to solve that riddle, which is a telecom issue. But the way NOFN is shaping up, we feel that by 2022, that's the feeling across the country, all the states will have roughly played catch up. At least at the Gram Panchayat level, we would have extremely good connectivity. And with the 5G coming in, most probably we would solve the connectivity issue. Then it's largely the design issue which is left.
Design issue basically.
So one question, actually clarification on something you said. You had said that one idea you all have which is still not policy yet is to identify good POCs, and the state puts in money, whatever amount, small amount, 25 lakhs. Will the state also hold stake in them, or it's from the grant? I mean,
that would be a grant. That would be ultimately against an output, right? So I'll give you an example. There was a college batchmate of mine who was doing a big POC with the Andhra government. Now obviously, I think they have completed it. What they were doing was, rather than installing solar pumping set, which is a huge investment. So when you have surplus power in the grid, you use a system of magnetic relays and you supply power to the pump set. The pump set actually gets on and works, pumps water. It also has an IoT device inside it, which with a built-in battery life of 3 years or something, which will tell when the water level, the desired water level is reached, the moisture level is reached. Then it switches off automatically. So they did a POC. Initially it was a paid POC, and the subsequent, the MOU that they had was that once it is good and if there is a cost benefit to it, then the Andhra government would have a joint venture with this company and take it to not only in Andhra but also in other states. So I don't know what is happening to that. They had a paid POC, that part was complete 1 year back. But at least the paid POC part, it was a paid POC, they got the money and they were out, even though the second part didn't take off.
Just a follow-up, why I asked this question was because you were speaking about how you all found a good startup, it made a good app, but then the startup gets bought by another company, and now you don't know whether the larger company would be wanting to do the same deal. But if you all have stake in the company, you all would have more control, right? To see to it that
you're right. See, so there's always a problem. In the 60s and the 70s, when you started creating these state industries development corporations, they used to invest as superior equity or subordinate debt instruments. They were using those instruments at that point of time. So they used to participate in equity. They didn't vocalize it as, let's say, superior equity or subordinate debt, but it was essentially that. But somehow that has gone into disuse all across the country. So it was a 60s and 70s model. It's a successful model, partly successful, partly not successful. But there's a thought process. Thank you very much for the session.
Yeah, please.
Hello, sir. I am Shishir Gupta from Lawgate. It was just a small question based out of what the gentleman asked you. See, when you mentioned about POC, now when the government is funding it, does it mean that it has to be a very big giant company who is coming out with the POC? Because the investment required, if it is given later on and not in hand to begin with, then you're not actually hand-holding any company in real sense. You're just kind of chiving him away. All right, आपके पास पैसा है तो आइए, नहीं है तो छोड़ दीजिए. Then it's not encouraging anybody. It's a dead proposal. It doesn't wake up, it doesn't see sunshine. Unless you handhold him from day one. If it's a small guy, I have a concept in my mind. I'll tell you where it's coming from, because I'm the only company from the central government, I got an approval from Ministry of Culture for doing mobile-enabled games on animated mobile-enabled games on monuments of India. We got all the approvals. Wonderful. Now, subsequently, after the wonderful, they said, okay, now you make a POC. I said, great. It's going to cost me 1 crore. Now, who's going to put the money in? They said, well, we'll see. So, आप इसको develop करिए, फिर उसको install करिए, फिर उसको चालू करिए, फिर we'll see for 1 year, and then after that, we will consider whether we'll pay you or not, and then it'll get into a shuffle where, you know, somebody will say, नहीं, इसमें ये ठीक नहीं है, उसमें वो ठीक नहीं है. So ultimately, if the government does not come forward in actual terms of hand-holding, I think it's just, we are just talking in this platform and nothing is going to take off. So as a person in charge, I feel you must think about it, put it to the government and say, hey, come on, wake up, let's do something. There should be some thought process from day one to actually push them to result. Do you agree with me or not? I do not know. Thank you.
Perfect, but you have to understand the majburis of government as well. So,
well,
so
if it's a majburi, then we forget about smart India, digital India,
no, so you don't talk
great
about,
India.
Just a minute. When we are talking about POCs, a 100 crore project can't be a POC. Obviously, it has to require prior investment. But a 25 lakh POC, they have to be broken down into stages, because government may, as you know, now risk taking is slightly difficult going to the general ecosystem all across, and rightly so. So the ecosystem, when it punishes lots of people, it is not undeserved to a large extent. But having said that, there is merit in what you say, depends on the scale of the project as well.
Yeah, even smaller projects, you see, I mean, for various setups.
No, I get the point. I get the point thoroughly. So,
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it's absolutely a valid point. We are going to come to an end to this session, but before that, I had just one last question. Over the last year, since we met last year and now we are meeting, give me an example of one of your most satisfying moments in your work sphere, when you maybe announced a policy or something really clicked, or something that you really felt good about.
So, Shantanu, I am also in the finance department. So, you know the payment system of the government, how it has evolved. So, initially we used to send cash to districts for people here to appreciate. So, designing an entire payment management system. So, but it's actually a very satisfying thing.
That's a huge leap. Yes, that is a huge leap, and maybe we should have a proper session just on this topic one day, telling people how you managed to do that, because it is a very ambitious thing, and the fact the simplified approach is great. Anyway, congratulations. I think we will come to an end with the session now, and we'll get ready for the next one. Thank you so much, Mr. Singh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rahul Singh. May I now request Mr. Shantanu Datta to present a memento to Mr. Rahul Singh. It is always a privilege to hear you speak, sir. And thank you for your precious time here today morning. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll start off with our next session, which is the Spotlight Session Momentum Jharkhand. And like all of you know, the partner state for INFOCOM Delhi 2019 is Jharkhand. And our spotlight speaker for this particular session is Mr. Sarvesh Singhal, Special Secretary IT&E Governance, Government of Jharkhand, and CEO, JAP IT and Director, JSAC. Before I invite him onto the stage, I'd also like to mention that the moderator for this session will be Mr. Shantanu Datta, just like the previous session. He's the resident editor, Jharkhand edition, The Telegraph. I would now like to request Mr. Sarvesh Singhal to kindly come onto the dais and take his seat. And can we have a round of applause for him, please? And a very warm welcome to you, sir. Mr. Sarvesh Singhal is a Special Secretary, Department of IT&E Governance, Government of Jharkhand. He's the Chief Executive Officer, Jharkhand Agency for Promotion of Information Technology, Ranchi, and he's the Director, Jharkhand Space Application Center, Ranchi. It is my privilege to welcome you, sir, and I will hand over the session to Mr. Shantanu Datta now.
Hello. Yeah. Welcome, Mr. Singhal. Once again, we meet after a year, and I remember, again, the last time you gave us a very elaborate presentation on how things were and on the new projects. Will you please tell us of what kind of major progress you have made in the last 1 year or so, and then we will take the discussions forward. Yes. There are a couple of points which I have, but we'll go to that later, but I think everybody wants to hear from you first.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. And now from Bihar to Jharkhand, it's a sister state and created out of Bihar 19 years ago. We will be celebrating our 19th birthday in November. Jharkhand, as you know, is known for actually by the name of MS Dhoni. He is a cricketer, previous captain of India, and so Jharkhand is known by the name of Mr. MS Dhoni more rather than anything else. Jharkhand is a state which is having a 33% forest area, and because of this 33%, which is a blessing to the state, but at the same time, because of this, we have a poor connectivity in those 33% areas. Those becomes the dark zones of area. But even then, we are trying to cover up those areas through RF, providing connectivity those areas. In the last 1 year, we are trying to attract the investments in the IT sector. For that, we have created 4 STPIs. One STPI was already existing in Ranchi, and additionally, we have gone for the construction of 3 more STPIs in the Jharkhand. Along with that, we have an agreement with IIM Ahmedabad, and we are establishing a central innovation lab, which is also known by the name of Atal Innovation Lab, for promoting the startups. Along with this, we have done a MOU with CDAC in the field of cyber security. We are establishing one central forensic lab at Ranchi, and in the 24 districts we are establishing regional labs. And to have a hand-holding with the police, the home department, we are doing this in collaboration with the home department, but the responsibility has been given to the CDAC. These are the 2 main areas where we have already worked, and now we are going for the 3rd area, which is establishment of the IT park. We have 100 acres of prime land in the HEC area, which is the prime location and close by to everything, all the important locations. We are going to establish IT park, that too in the PPP mode. Basically, along with this, we are also having a ESDM facility in Jamshedpur. As you all know, India is dependent for this electronic sector 60% by the import. We are expecting to promote this sector to the $400 billion market by 2022, but right now we are just touching $100 billion. In the ESDM sector, there is a big opportunity for the investment, and for that the government of Jharkhand has provided a whole area dedicated to the ESDM. Along with this, we have also come up along with the policies in which we are providing a lot of financial incentives as well as non-financial incentives to ESDM sector, ITITs, BPOs and startups. So these are the few areas where we have been working in the last 1 year, and we have come across a long way, and in the near future we will be doing a lot, providing facilities to the investors so that they can come up to the Jharkhand and can take up their industries over there. Thank you.
These STPIs that you spoke of, Deoghar, Sindri, Dhanbad and Jamshedpur, what exactly is the status of them? I mean, you know, how much of the work is completed there?
Deoghar has already completed, and except Jamshedpur, other two are 85% work is almost over. And I am expecting in the next couple of months it will be complete. Finishing.
So by the end of the year they would start.
We will have all the four.
all
By the end
four
of the year, we will have all the 4 STPs completed.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Okay. And there was also part of some of the reports that we had done, that there was also a talk of privately promoted and privately funded STPIs. So you all were thinking of that. Where is it, at what stage is that plan? And what are the locations for those?
Actually, basically, first we have thought to complete this 4 STPIs. If we just start those projects also simultaneously, then it will, we may not be able to achieve the target on time. So right now, we are focusing on these 4 STPIs. Then for the private sector, so the thought process is like that, if we go and develop this IT park in the 100 acres of land, in that area which will be on PPP mode, in that particular area, this type of idea can come up in a wider way, in collaboration with the fund, and it will be on the PPP mode. So basically we are conceptualizing in this way. This will have everything, whatever is required, requested, and there is a market for that basically.
We would also, I'd also like some questions from the floor, please, if anybody, yes, please, sir. One moment, the mic.
Sir, as an STPI, as a government, are you also ensuring, like, see, the most important part for any STPI is to have a talent pool available to feed that STPI. Now, if the talent pool, that is, talent pool will come in terms of there is education facility, there is school, there is hospital, there is housing, there is water, there is electricity, there is sewage, road, and all of that around the STPI, not just inside the STPI. So, I mean, what I heard from you is that you've developed a 100-acre patch with all the kind of the latest facilities. That sounds very beautiful and looks very attractive. But for an investor to walk in, it's the other paraphernalia facilities which will actually bring him in, and the availability of talent pool. That is the local talent. Otherwise, I'm going to have to ship people from Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, Hyderabad, and shift them over there, and that's a huge cost, which nobody would want to do that. So will it really survive in absence of that, or actually the government is developing the entire area around it as well?
If I talk about IT park in Ranchi, it's all, we are also developing around a smart city in 650-acre land, and that will be having all these kind of facility. That is one. And secondly, Ranchi is having all these kind of facilities. Then we talk about Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur is again a very developed area, especially because of the Tata, and all the facilities are there, whether it's a medical facility or education facility, all the facilities are already there. Dhanbad, Deoghar, wherever we are talking, these places are where all these kind of facilities are there, there is no problem as such.
And what about
also,
people?
if I may add, because
manpower?
I keep traveling to, just to add to what sir said, I keep traveling to Ranchi, and over the last 5 years, I have seen a change in the city a lot. I mean, the city has really changed from small incremental things like proper road signages to better roads that don't get flooded during rains, and the general look of the city, I feel, has changed a lot. That's Ranchi. But yes, your question is also valid for places like Deoghar, then probably Sindri. Sindri, those places will also need to be developed and made much more livable than what they are. And what's happening on the power situation, sir? I mean, a general overview. How bad are things, or is it that you have already got a hold on the problem and power is being taken care of?
There is a project which is undergoing, although it has been delayed by few months, and it will be ready Means the vision is like that 24 into 7, 365 days power supply without any interruption. It is underway and a lot of work is going on, but because of some problems, digging of road and cabling and all, it is underway. And our government's vision is power supply uninterrupted 24 into 7, 365 days. That is there.
That's good to know. Yes, sir, you were saying something else you wanted to add. Is there anything else? No? Is that okay?
Actually, was just asking about the manpower pool also. Like in Jamshedpur, for example, the people are actually already feeding the Tata Steel plant. Now, would they have that kind of manpower available to actually the young generation or the young talent pool to get trained and skill developed and put into an STPI area in the software development area? Is another question. Because otherwise, you'll have to get people.
Yeah, you are very right. But if you talk about Jamshedpur itself is having two, one is NIT and then IIT, triple IT Ranchi is also located in Jamshedpur. So then we have Central University of Jharkhand there and IIM, and then ISM Dhanbad, then BIT Sindri, BIT Mesra. We have pretty good institutions.
See, all of these institutes put together, well, how many students they will have is about maybe 4,000 or 6,000. A company like Cisco in the morning session itself, they said like in a facility like that, at one location they could probably have 11,000 people.
That's true. But question is that the students passing out, are they being absorbed right now? If not, then there is a scope to absorb those students as the requirement will be increasing. I think the seats will be increased accordingly. But right now, if we are going to increase the seats and there is no jobs available accordingly, so that will be
very
lost.
Hopeful perspective, yes.
No, there are very good chances. Number of universities have recently come up also, and as per the requirement, definitely I can assure you it is going to grow because triple IT has been established only 2 years ago. Lot of possibility of growing. NIT Jamshedpur is also not a very old organization, so seats can be increased because right now the capacity is 40 seats in each branch. So you can understand it can be increased up to 200 very easily. That's not a problem. It depends on what's the requirement in the market. If we create so many engineers, graduates, and there is no market for them, then that's not a good scenario as such. So we need to create the market first, then we have to increase the seats also. But that's not a problem, I assure you.
And what are the kind of incentives for being in the STPI?
Basically, right now, the STPIs after construction are being handed over to the STPI, Government of India. So they are running as per their norms, one. Secondly, we have 4 policies. In this, there are financial incentives through which we are promoting these kind of things. So a lot of financial incentives. I will have to then show the slide because I don't remember all the incentives. Number of incentives are there. Number of incentives.
So, in the incentive, see, there is a small question which probably I'll have to elaborate, because one is if the government is giving a direct cash benefit, it becomes very difficult for a businessman to actually avail it. You know, there's a big loop one has to kind of travel, so it becomes like a disincentive. But you know, way back in 92, 93, government of Maharashtra came out with a very beautiful policy. I just want to share it for the purposes that maybe in case if somebody wants to think about it. They said, okay, we will give you an incentive, but it will not be in terms of cash. So the private investor, it's for the wind power energy. They wanted these plants to come up. They said, okay, how will you give it? They said, we'll give you a exempted sales tax saleable part. So the electricity which they sell to the government is basically, it has a sales tax component. Now the entire sales tax will be exempt. So we'll give you an exemption certificate which you can actually sell to anybody else. So they were in turn selling 10 crores worth of exemption, sales tax exemption to a private guy. So for a businessman, it was like instant cash. I don't have to go to the government and go, you know, from one post to another desk to another desk. And it becomes so simple. So
yeah,
that would be rather
right.
more incentivizing.
Yeah. There are 3 kinds of exemption. One is the exemption, second is the reimbursement, and third is a cash transfer. Right. There are 3 kind of.
The other 2 are very difficult, sir.
I don't say ki you are not wrong, but it is not impossible. So,
sir, I've been working in government for last more than 35 years. I mean, we've been interacting with all government departments, various positions, various places, various public sector companies, government companies. We've seen that happening for the last 40 years or 50 years. My father's been seeing it. It's impossible.
But the situation has definitely changed from those years. In the last 2-3 years, So there is a lot of change in government processing also, and I would say it is much easier if you compare it 10 years ago. In the last 2 years, there is a lot of changes, and the mindset is we have to give. Previously, the mindset was what are the shortcomings in the process. We used to find out what are the shortcomings in the we have not
shortcomings and what are the
Yeah.
loopholes? How
right
to stop
now,
payment?
Right now we try. No, we have to
Sir,
give
you
them.
will be,
That's the mind.
I'll give you a very interesting example. I was talking to a contractors association.
Sorry? Yeah. Yes?
Oh, offline. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, offline. Okay. Any other questions? I wanted to ask you something about the broadband connectivity plan, the BharatNet, the progress of that project, because that is very crucial, as Mr. Singh was just talking about, that, in panchayat levels and connectivity in the remote areas. And there is also a security question, which you really said that, there are 33% areas which are forested and they are dark zones, which raises other security questions given the context of Jharkhand. So, some idea on how far has this BharatNet?
Previously, as you know, BBNL was working in most of the states, and they were doing in 13 districts in Jharkhand. The progress was like that. They were supposed to complete for us. Now it is 6 years, and still it is going on. So now we have taken up. We have a constitution on JCNL, Jharkhand Communication Network Limited. Now we have started our work in the 11 districts. Right now, 2,800 panchayats have this connectivity, and I think within next 2 years, we will be able to deliver a lot, because now the JCNL is working under IT department. It's our own autonomous body, so I think we can deliver in next 2 years. We will be, and all the panchayats will be connected through BharatNet.
Yeah, because connectivity is a problem, because related to that, a lot of issues come up which gives the state a bad name. Things like POS machines, PDS systems, things not working, linkages and all that. And my pet subject, which I love to go and check out, is what is the progress of the Ranchi Wi-Fi situation? The big plans of having Wi-Fi in Ranchi.
In Ranchi, initially it was BSNL. They have taken up this project, and they have installed some access points. But right now, from IT department, government of Jharkhand, we have also initiated city Wi-Fi project, and in this city Wi-Fi project, we have taken up 10 cities, and very soon we will be establishing these access points at important locations in 10 cities. It will be done from the government of Jharkhand.
Will this sort of come up by the end of the year, by this year, or is it even up further?
Not by this year, because July is already over. So maybe by March 2020, yeah.
Yes. Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Since Jharkhand and Bihar was one state and it has been split into two, everything is fine at its place. Like I said, everything is there. Anything that is taken up, whether it is STPI or IT industry or anything, why isn't it not time stipulated? Once it is announced, everybody, especially the youth, are with open eyes. Everybody wants a job, but there's no time frame. If I have to take a flight from here to point A to point B, I'm told my flight will take 5 hours. So I know, my mind is set, 5 hours I am there. Over here, why is not every program that is announced, it has to be within stipulated time? Why is this time not mentioned? To say, okay, you have a grace time, it is supposed to be by the end of August. If it doesn't finish, at least September. Especially the people abroad that I am now in my social sector connected with them, nobody understands. And that's why even Modi ji says 59, that he needs things to happen within a time-bound frame. Why is this machinery with the government or private sector, I do not get things done on time? What is that? What is the reason for this?
Again, I would say the same word what Rahul sir has said just. It's, there are some problems which cannot be explained, ek majbooriyan, but it is, I would say, lot of mindset change is there. Definitely, in the government machinery, I would say lot of mindset change. Secondly, I would say, if we talk about so many projects, it involves a number of things, means it cut across so many departments. Suppose if I am talking about laying of optical fiber, so you have to take permissions from the road departments or from, if we are passing through someone. I will give you example, we are doing a project of court and jail video conferencing project. In 29 jails, we are connecting the courts and jails for producing the trial, witness trial. So, means at 3 places there is a railway crossing. Can you imagine, we are not getting permission to take over the OFC from there. Even High Court is involved over there. And we have put lot of efforts, and we got permission right now from the one Ramgarh area to take over the OFC. So, whenever this kind of situation is coming, that is one deterrent which derails you from the timeline. Secondly, sometimes it happens, for example, I give you, there are 2 cities, Ranchi and Jamshedpur, the most important city of Jharkhand. They are constructing road between these 2 cities, but it is not complete from the last 6-7 years. Why? Because of the legal problems. They have gone into the court. Now case is lying in the court. You cannot do. You cannot give it to any other person. Your government cannot take it back until unless the case is decided. This is second problem. Third, sometimes what happens, you know, there is a budget allotment problems, the approvals from the due process and approvals from cabinet and state empowerment committee. So number of process, that is also one deterrent which derails from the time frame what we frame for a project. So these are, but I would say there is a hell lot of mindset change in the government machinery to deliver the project on time. That is there. We are trying our level best. We have improved a lot, and I am sure in the coming future there will be more and more improvement, definitely.
So you're saying the intent is very much there, it is just the implementation which is not happening. Yes, any other questions? Please. Yeah.
So just one clarification, the 4 parks, the 4 software parks which you all have planned, are there any focus areas like you all want, I mean Jharkhand hopes to get, has a market for certain kinds of software, certain kinds of companies? Do you all have any focus areas for these parks? So what sort of companies do you all want to come to Jharkhand?
Means you want to talk, you are talking about.
I think what he means is that if you as a government have any ideas of the kind of companies you would like to come, which would sort of help in the existing ecosystem of Jharkhand. For instance, handicrafts and arts and silk, you know, these are things which Jharkhand is very strong in. So would you have preferences? Is that right? That's some.
Yes, government of Jharkhand is trying to excel in handicrafts, agriculture, minerals and mines sectors, textiles. We are highly focused, dairy farming, fisheries, we are highly focused, and the government is really doing very well in these sectors.
Some more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Alok Singhal. Sir, as you just said that July is almost over, so today is 11th. I just want to understand that you are saying July is always over, so we'll complete it by March. So is it, you know, don't take me wrong, sir, first of all. So I'm saying it's a government psyche that it's still 19 days left in the month, and we are saying July is almost over. So if I take example of yesterday's match, right? So 19 balls, 38 runs or something. So if we start feeling like that, that it's all over, means I look at it this way, that 19 days I can achieve. I can do a lot of things. So I just want to understand from you, sir, that, if the person like you is, mentioning this, so people who are looking at you as a leader, so they will also, I think, come out with the same mindset, ki, okay, July is over, now we have to look at August. Just, sir, your view on this, when you said that, what was your thought behind that, sir? Thank you.
You want to know means so why I am expecting this instead of December, it will be means March 30, 20th.
Just said that July is almost over, so I am trying to understand that
Okay,
19 days
okay.
left. But
Actually,
you are saying-
in government what happens, everyone knows that there is a financial year. Financial year starts from 1st of April. And from 1st of April, the disbursement of funds starts. Disbursement of funds means approval of the project, then allotment of sanction of funds, then allotment of funds, then funds starts flowing. So that means, and then if there is further need of fund, then their supplementary budget is initiated in month of September, may go up to October, November also. So means April, May, June, July, 4 months are already over. Now we are left with 8 months in this financial year. So I am talking as per the financial, because by 31st March, again we have to go for the next year's budget. This year's budget is over. Whatever fund is there, either you have to surrender or it lapses. So we again start working from the 1st of April for the current financial year's projects. So that way I am talking actually. It's not like that if there is any fund balance with me, I can take it over to the next financial year. That's not there. That's why I am just talking in terms of months in relation to the financial year.
So, sir, we are saying that July, which is up after April, it is only 3 months. So, are we saying that the people sitting at your level or at Mr. Singh's level, can't have that much power to, get extra budget or something sanctioned? Is it not possible in the government?
That's possible, but it's some policy changes are required. So
sorry, sir, we have been told after this Modi sir's government that India is changed. So I think we are still there where we were. I think so. We are still not moved ahead. We are still having the same stage. There is no change. I think so.
No, you're absolutely right. I think what this gentleman has said is that this is the core issue of our problem areas where we can't act fast enough and the mindset and things have to change, obviously. I mean, at the level of the secretaries, if funds is an issue, clearances have to be got. That's the whole idea. You're telling people that, it's a single windows clearing system, but then in your own offices, if you can't clear, I think that's a very pertinent point, and I think we'll have to, all of us will have to, the governments will have to cross that bridge to ensure that. Yes, sir. Can we have a mic, please?
So, just I will clear a small misconception over there. See, we can control obviously things over which we have control, right? So there are many times things over which we have no control. So when I said majburiya, it didn't mean that we are helpless in the sense of bureaucrats being helpless. But there's a sphere of influence and there's a sphere where you actually work. But there's a larger ecosystem out there about accountability. And if you see the last 15-20 years, the way the accountability institutions have worked and they have played out, they have sometimes created an atmosphere where there is risk averseness. This is what I was hinting at. But having said that, I would still say that the things which are under our control, as far as possible, we normally solve that, and when we give a commitment, it's generally about things under our control. When I talk about majburiya, it is in the sense of the outer context. So please don't misunderstand us, and that will always be there. When you are in the government, it is got to be accountable, and so that's not wrong as such, but it's there.
I hope that answers a bit part of your concerns, very valid concerns, yes. I think we have time for one last question, if we could have somebody from the house. Firoz, anything you can think of? Yeah.
I'd actually like to overstep my brief and come to the defense of the state of Jharkhand here. I think the specific context in which Mr. Singhal mentioned that something can be completed by March is we have the monsoons coming in, and you can't be installing Wi-Fi network in a Jharkhand monsoon. So he'll have to wait for the monsoons to be over. And I think the key thing that was probably lost in translation is he's spending public funds. He can't spend it as he wishes. I mean, we work in companies too. If I'm handed over a travel budget for covering the Lok Sabha polls of 1 lakh, I can't spend 5 lakhs. That I'll be sacked. So I'm sure Mr. Singhal has the same constraints, but within the government system, what he was trying to explain is you have a budget and then a supplementary budget if suppose you need more money for something. And I think even the target he has put, I think like in Shantanu sir mentioned about giving Ranchi one city Wi-Fi, even that hasn't happened. There are practical constraints in that. For doing it for 10 cities in Jharkhand would, I think even March is a very early, it's hard to imagine that 10 cities would completely have free Wi-Fi by March, but I wish them all the best. I hope you all can.
And the very fact that Jharkhand is talking about Wi-Fi in 10 cities is a huge achievement. The fact that it believes it can do it is a huge achievement for.
But I can say means establishing a Wi-Fi in one city or establishing Wi-Fi parallelly in 10 cities doesn't mean timeline will be same, because it's not means someone is installing Wi-Fi in one city cannot parallelly, they can do in the other 10 cities also.
That's true.
So if I can install Wi-Fi in one city in 2 months, in same 2 months, it will be installed in the other 9 cities also. That's not a constraint. That is achievable.
But yes, it's very achievable. But the point is whether we can do it or not. Any case, I think we'll wind up the session. Thank you so much, Mr. Singhal, and hope to see you back again next year, and we shall take some more stock taking. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sarvesh Singhalji. I would now like to request Mr. Shantanu Datta to present a memento as a token of our gratitude. Thank you very much for your time, sir.